200 million years ago, the sky opened and refused to close. Rain fell without mercy for 2 million years straight. This was not myth or legend. This was Earth's most relentless storm, the Carnian Pluvial Event. Imagine a world where deserts drowned, forests collapsed, and entire species vanished beneath endless gray skies. The ground itself turned liquid, swallowing giants that had ruled for eons. Yet from this nightmare, something extraordinary emerged. Small, overlooked creatures seized their moment, stepping into the void left by extinction. These were the first dinosaurs, and the storm that nearly destroyed all life gave them the world. Tonight, we journey into the deluge that rewrote evolution and ask, could it happen again? The world before the storm. The late Triassic Earth was a planet of extremes. A supercontinent called Pangaea stretched across the globe. Deserts dominated the landscape, their red sands baking under a merciless sun that never seemed to rest. Rivers were rare, appearing only as thin lifelines cutting through endless expanses of cracked, thirsty earth. Forests clung to coastlines like desperate survivors, their roots drinking from whatever moisture the ocean winds could carry. This was a world built on scarcity, where every drop of water was a precious gift. Reptiles ruled this harsh domain with bodies perfectly adapted to conserve moisture and withstand scorching heat. Giant crocodile-like archosaurs prowled the riverbanks, their armored hides gleaming in the sunlight. Rhynchosaurs, squat herbivores with powerful beaks, roamed in herds across the plains, feeding on tough vegetation. Amphibians huddled near shrinking pools, their soft skins vulnerable to the drying air. And somewhere in the shadows, small dinosaurs scurried through the undergrowth, insignificant and overlooked. Life had found its rhythm in this arid world, a delicate balance maintained over millions of years. Creatures knew exactly where to find shade, when to migrate, and how to endure the long stretches between rains. The climate was predictable, the seasons followed familiar patterns, and survival depended on mastering the art of drought. But beneath this apparent stability, forces were stirring deep within the Earth's crust. Volcanic fields lay dormant, pressure building in chambers of molten rock that would soon tear the world apart. The stillness was deceptive, like the calm before a hurricane that would last 2 million years. No creature alive could sense what was coming. No instinct could prepare them for the transformation ahead. The world they knew, with its deserts and heat and predictable scarcity, was about to dissolve. And when the first raindrops began to fall, they carried with them the promise of catastrophe. The first drops, the rain began gently at first, tapping against sun-baked earth that had known little but dryness. To creatures adapted to scarcity, these early showers must have seemed strange, perhaps even welcome. But the rain did not stop, and what began as a whisper soon became a roar. Within decades, the climate shifted from predictable drought to relentless deluge, and the world began to drown. Geologists can read this transformation in the rocks themselves, layers of sediment that preserve the memory of water. Where once there were red desert soils, suddenly there appear bands of clay laid down by floods. Chemical signatures in ancient minerals reveal moisture seeping deep into the ground, altering the very composition of the earth. The planet was keeping a diary, and every page told the same story. The dry age was over. For early life, the transition was brutal and disorienting. Plants that had evolved to survive on minimal water suddenly found their roots drowning. Animals that had relied on dry riverbeds as migration routes now faced impassable torrents. Insects that had thrived in arid climates watched their breeding grounds transform into stagnant pools. The world was changing faster than evolution could respond, and survival became a desperate game. The storms deepened with each passing season, turning from occasional downpours into a permanent state of deluge. Rivers that had been modest channels swelled into raging torrents, tearing through valleys and carving new paths across the land. Deserts that had stretched for thousands of miles began to soften, then crumble, then disappear beneath sheets of brown water. The very geography of Pangaea was being rewritten in real time. Lightning split the skies with terrifying frequency, turning nights into flickering twilight and igniting fires even as floods raged. The air grew thick and heavy with humidity, suffocating creatures built for dry heat. Burrows filled with water, nests dissolved into sludge, and familiar hunting grounds vanished beneath rising floods. The ground itself seemed to betray every creature that walked upon it. The drowning world. As the rains continued without pause, the landscape transformed into something alien and hostile. Valleys filled like bowls, creating lakes that had never existed before, some draining after months, others lingering permanently. Rivers carved deep scars into the softened earth, depositing thick layers of mud that hardened briefly before being torn open again. The world was caught in a cycle of destruction and renewal, with no stable ground remaining. The fossils from this period tell a grim story of sudden population crashes and mass die-offs. Rhynchosaurs, once countless across the continents, left behind evidence of rapid decline as the plants they depended on drowned. Dicynodonts, massive tusked herbivores, struggled as their digging grounds turned to swamps and their bulk became a liability. Even the fearsome archosaur predators faced starvation as prey grew scarce and hunting grounds washed away. Amphibians, which should have thrived in the wet world, were among the first to collapse. Their delicate eggs were destroyed by floods or poisoned by the changing chemistry of the waters. Parasites exploded in the stagnant pools, wiping out entire generations before they could reach adulthood. The silence of their absence echoed across the drowned landscapes. But the devastation was not limited to the land. The oceans themselves began to suffocate. Rivers carried nutrients from the flooded continents into the seas, triggering massive algae blooms that painted the water green. When these blooms died, microbes consumed the remains, stripping the water of oxygen. Fish suffocated in vast numbers, their silver bodies carpeting the seabed. Coral reefs crumbled, and entire marine food webs unraveled. The skies above this drowning world were alive with fire and fury. Volcanic eruptions poured gases into the atmosphere, wrapping the planet in a suffocating blanket of carbon dioxide and sulfur. The rain that fell became acidic, burning through soil and poisoning freshwater pools. Temperatures swung wildly between cooling shadows and suffocating warmth, creating a climate of contradictions where no creature could find stable footing. The monsters of the swamp. From a chaos of endless rain, new predators emerged to rule the waterlogged world. Phytosaurs, crocodile-like reptiles with jaws packed with hooked teeth, slid silently through the swamps. Their nostrils positioned high on their heads allowed them to lie in ambush just beneath the surface, to prey animals venturing to the water's edge. Death came as a sudden explosion of teeth and water. Giant amphibians, some longer than a grown man, thrived in the new wetlands with bodies built for moisture. Their broad mouths, filled with needle-like teeth, could swallow fish, small reptiles, and anything else unfortunate enough to cross their path. They crawled from pond to pond with heavy, deliberate steps, their bellies dragging through the mud. The swamps became arenas of brutal competition where predators hunted not only prey, but each other. A giant amphibian might seize a young phytosaur, only to be dragged under when the reptile turned its strength against it. Scarce told stories of violent lives lived on the edge of survival. The water itself was often dark and murky, turning every pool into a place of mystery and danger. Yet even in this nightmare landscape, life found ways to adapt and flourish. The constant moisture created habitats rich with insects, fish, and aquatic plants, supporting food chains that grew more complex with each generation. The swamps were both beautiful and brutal, a testament to life's resilience in the face of catastrophe. The Rise of the Dinosaurs. In the shadows of the drowning world, small dinosaurs began to find their footing. While giants struggled in the mud and floods, these lean, agile creatures discovered advantages in their lightweight frames. Their long legs lifted them above the muck, and their speed allowed them to dart across ground that swallowed larger beasts whole. The endless storms were thinning the ranks of the old rulers, creating openings in ecosystems that had been crowded for millions of years. Rhynchosaurs vanished as their food sources changed, archosaurs declined as prey grew scarce, and amphibians collapsed under the weight of environmental stress. In the gaps left behind, dinosaurs expanded generation by generation, filling niches their ancestors could never have imagined. They were not yet the towering giants of later ages, but they carried within them the seeds of future dominance. Their efficient lungs, similar to modern birds, gave them resilience in changing climates. Their upright posture allowed movement other reptiles couldn't match. They were survivors learning to thrive in a world that demanded constant adaptation. The storms that seemed like an ending were actually a beginning, washing away the old order and creating space for new rulers. Dinosaurs seized this moment not through strength alone, but through flexibility, speed, and the ability to exploit opportunities where others saw only ruin. The clearing skies. After 2 million years, the rains finally began to thin, and the endless gray curtains of water grew lighter. Thunder echoed farther apart, and for the first time in countless generations, sunlight touched the ground without being filtered through falling water. What emerged was a planet transformed beyond recognition. Forests rose again, not identical to those that had drowned, but composed of new species that had survived the deluge. Ferns spread in waves of green, their spores carried by water to every corner of the land. Conifers stretched upward, their roots gripping the softened earth, creating the first true forests of this changed world. The air itself was different, rebalanced by plants that pulled carbon from the sky. The creatures that endured had been tempered by hardship, carrying the scars of survival in their very biology. Dinosaurs, still small but growing in number and diversity, began their march toward dominance. They had survived what countless others had not, and survival was all they needed to expand. The world was quieter now, but heavy with the echoes of what had been erased. Entire lineages were gone forever, but in their place stood the seeds of a future that would change Earth's history. The stage was set, and the age of dinosaurs had finally begun. Echoes in the present. The Carnian Pluvial Event feels like ancient history, yet its echoes roll through our present day. Then volcanic gases filled the atmosphere with heat-trapping carbon dioxide. Now, it is the burning of fossil fuels. The same chemical forces that once drowned forests and shifted oceans are at play again, building silently in modern air. Today's storms are intensifying, with hurricanes forming with greater strength and rainfall overwhelming cities. While our storms are not yet endless, they reveal how small changes in atmospheric chemistry can magnify into disasters. The speed of current climate change echoes the suddenness of that ancient shift. Scientists ask a haunting question. Could another pluvial event happen again, this time with humans as both witnesses and catalysts? Rising carbon dioxide, warming seas that hold more moisture, and expanding storm systems are eerily aligned. We may not face millions of years of rain, but rainfall records break year after year. The rocks that carry the 2 million year signature of the Carnian rains whisper a warning across deep time. They remind us that Earth does not need our permission to change, that climate does not move at our convenience. Every flood in the present, every lingering storm, every drought can be seen as faint tremors of a story already written in stone. The storm that lasted 2 million years was not simply a disaster. It was a transformation. It drowned giants, reshaped continents, and gave rise to the age of dinosaurs. From chaos came renewal, from extinction came opportunity. The lesson written in ancient stone remains clear. Life endures not through strength alone, but through the courage to adapt. As we face our own changing climate, we carry that same choice. Will we bend or will we break? The age of dinosaurs was born from adversity, a testament to the power of adaptation and persistence. In every drop of water, every bent fern, and every cautious step, life moved forward.